we're still looking into it, and we haven't really found an answer yet.
Jonas Vingegaard has had 2 bad days at the Tour, and in his own words, he doesn't know why. Is it the heat, the nutrition, team tension? Or maybe it's the mental pressure of being the hunter and not the hunted? Could it even be the lingering drama from the now infamous interviews that his wife Trina Hansen did a couple of weeks ago? And then yesterday, after a dramatic crash left him isolated. Even his main rival and yellow jersey wearer Tadej Pogačar had something to say, offering his support and criticising the Visma Lease bike tactics. So we're going to have a look at Jonas's rest day interview that he recorded and the video of that, alongside the quotes from him and Pog talking directly about this crash yesterday, as we ask the question, what is going wrong at Visma for Jonas Vingegaard? Okay, so let's have a look at Jonas's rest day video interview from today, where he talks about these couple of off days and gives us a bit more information. So let's have a look.
I mean, we have to attack. Let's be honest, I'm more than 4 minutes behind, so I've had 2 bad days. Normally I don't have any bad days, so that's a bit unfortunate, but...
And like he says himself, he doesn't usually have bad days. So this is something I mentioned in one of my other videos. Jonas is so consistent. I can't really remember a bad day he's had at the Tour until this year. So the question is, why? Well, he talks a bit more about that, so let's see a bit more. But what he says in response to this next question, I think is quite telling. So let's have a look.
Do you have any sense about talking about your off days? Could it be coming down from altitude camp? Is it a matter of not eating, or you just don't know?
So the interviewer asks him there about what does he think could be responsible for his bad days? Could it be coming down from altitude? Does he know what it is? And this is what he says.
Yeah, it's a really good question. We're still looking into it, and we haven't really found an answer yet.
So that's kind of crazy in itself, right? He said himself, I don't usually have bad days. I've had 2 bad days this year, and I don't know what caused it, and we're still looking for answers. So sounds like they're as clueless as the rest of us as to what's going on there and why his legs failed him. So what's really interesting for me about that is he's obviously been at the Tour for a number of years now, and he's not had any bad days. So if it's the heat or the nutrition, why is that only affecting him now? Why did he have those things dialed in previous years, but this year they didn't work? It doesn't really make much sense to me. It implies that something's different this year to every other year. And if you think about it, the other thing that's crazy is last year, obviously, he had that huge crash at Itzulia Basque Country before the Tour, and he still looked a lot better than he looks this year. And I don't think it's as simple as that he underprepared for Pog either, because he's asked this question here.
Be so strong this year? Like, did you imagine like this big difference, or was it surprising?
And this is what Jonas says.
I mean, yes, I did expect him to be this strong. I think, as I said before, the gaps is mainly because I've had 2 off days. So
that's really interesting. So he's basically saying Pog's as strong as he thought he was going to be. So it's not like he underestimated Pog and he's trained not hard enough and come in undercooked. He knew what level Pog was going to be. And in his own words, it's because he had 2 bad days that he doesn't usually have.
Yeah, I don't think he's a lot better than he was in Dauphiné, to be honest, if he's better.
So he says that Pog is not even potentially any stronger than he was in the Dauphiné, and that the difference this year is pretty much just down to Jonas's bad legs on those 2 off days. And he kind of doubles down on that as well with what he says here.
Mainly because I know that on the off days, that's not the level that I have. That the performances I did those days were so poor that, I know that my level is a lot higher, and I know I can do a lot better than that.
See, that is one of the most interesting things that he says to me, because he said they were the 2 worst days he's ever had in the Tour. Essentially, he's also saying that's not what he's been seeing in training, and he knows he can perform better than that. Well, that begs the question, what's going on? Why is he performing so badly? If he's trained well, he's prepared well, he's done all the things he usually does, what's different? Well, potentially there's one thing that's different this year that we haven't seen in previous years, and that's the wife drama that's happened in the last couple of weeks. Now, some of you will already know I've done a couple of videos on the wife drama already, but I really do think that the pressure and the tension coming from that is impacting both Jonas and the team. It's really the only differential from last year or the other previous years. And as much as Jonas would never admit it, the pressure and the tension from those interviews was undoubtedly an unwelcome distraction from the focus on the Tour. And what happens if he's not focused entirely where he should be? Is he not sleeping correctly? Is he worried about his wife and children at home? Is he worried about the tension that's being caused with the team, in the media? All of those things surely are playing on his mind. And it wouldn't surprise me if that's literally what's had an effect on his legs for those 2 stages. Especially when we consider that usually he doesn't have these days. He usually trains, prepares and feeds perfectly for the Tour de France. We might be onto something here. And as if all of that wasn't bad enough, yesterday on stage 15, the tension between Visma and Jonas got even worse, as after a crash during the break formation early on in the stage, Jonas was left essentially to try and get himself back to the front group, which included Tadej Pogačar and his teammates, whilst Jonas's teammates tried to get into the break from that group with Tadej. And that raised a lot of questions around the world around the tactics involved there and why on earth Visma would abandon and leave their GC leader and hope for the yellow jersey to get back to the group on his own and use his own precious energy reserves. And it was certainly a questionable tactic, especially when you consider that Tadej Pogačar was actually in the front group trying to get them to slow down. And it was almost like he was telling Matteo Jorgensen and the rest of the Visma team, you do realise that your team leader is back there. Why aren't you helping him? We're slowing down so he can get back. It was such a bizarre situation, and so weird in fact that Tadej felt the need to address it in interviews afterwards. And this is what he had to say. When asked, do you understand why Visma are attacking on the front with Jonas behind? He said, I can see the picture for me, but it's hard to imagine what they were thinking. But there was a moment when there were a lot of teammates chasing, and Jonas, and there were 3 Visma riders in front. Tim and I tried to calm things down so they could come back, Pogačar explains. All of a sudden, Wout was running, so Victor Campenaerts and Matteo Jorgensen were running. I didn't know what to think. I closed the 3rd rider so that they didn't all 3 get going. Maybe I helped Jonas too. It was a pretty strange situation. I mean, that's insane that Jonas's main rival for the yellow jersey was the one stopping his own team, gapping him and leaving him behind. He was also asked, do you understand why they didn't help him? And he said, I don't know. If I were in Jonas's situation, I wouldn't be the most happy at the dinner table tonight because I still think he can win the Tour. He's 2nd in the class and yesterday he showed super good form. I understand they will want to win stages, but they can also win the entire Tour. I don't know, but I wouldn't be the happiest, Pogačar said. Now that's absolutely insane that Pogačar felt the need to criticise Visma's team tactics for leaving his main rival with no help. Frankly, even with all the justifications that I've heard since, I still don't agree with it, and it's very hard to imagine that if Tadej was in the same situation that the entire UAE team wouldn't have dropped back to help him. So who would have thought Jonas had an unlikely ally in his main rival, Tadej Pogačar? But maybe Tadej was just trying to return the favour after Jonas and the other guys didn't attack him when he crashed a few days ago. But that's not it, because Jonas was asked about it in the post-race interview and he had this to say also. It's probably more a dig at the team than me. It's obvious I'm alone at some point after the crash, and I do think that the DSs should have maybe sent 1 or 2 riders back at some point. But that's something we need to talk about later, of course. So Jonas obviously isn't entirely happy about that. He's usually very sort of reserved in what he says in the media and he will very rarely criticise the team, but that's probably as close as he's going to get to outwardly criticising them. And then when he's asked also, would you address that to the team themselves? He says, sure, but it's not the riders. It's the DS's responsibility in the end. So it's probably mostly conversations with them that's valuable. I had 3 teammates, but we didn't manage to get closer. So you do need to make a decision at some point if it's enough. So again, I kind of mentioned this in the other video, but Visma and Jonas both seem to be criticising each other, whereas previously they would never have done this. I've never heard either of them criticise each other until this tour. And realistically, I agree. The team should have sent a couple of riders back. It almost makes Trina look like she had a point in the interview when she said the team need to be focused all in on Jonas. And I didn't think I'd find myself agreeing with Trina at this point, even if only on one small thing. So it certainly seems like the tension is still there after the last couple of weeks. And you've got to wonder, like I said before, with all the other variables ruled out, could it be that the Jonas wife drama is actually having an impact on this year's Tour de France GC battle? So Tadej has been flawless so far, with Visma in chaos. And as Jonas said himself in that interview, he's 4 minutes behind, he has to attack. So the question is, does Jonas have a plan, or are Visma out of ideas? Are the bad legs and the tension caused by this drama, or could it be something else? And the next few stages could define this tour. So make sure you like, comment, most importantly subscribe. It's free and it really helps the channel. Catch you on the next one.